From KLCC Studios, this is Oregon on the Record.
I'm Michael Dunn. For many people, the draw of owning your own small business comes down to autonomy and flexibility. Being your own boss, running things your own way, and making changes on a dime because you're the ultimate decision maker are major attractions to opening up your own shop. But those key attractions of autonomy and flexibility come at a cost. Because you're the boss, everything is ultimately your responsibility, even those things that are out of your control, like annoying regulations, crime, and trying to find employees in a tight labor market. Oh, and by the way, imagine doing all that during a generational challenge like COVID. Today on Oregon on the Record, you'll hear from 4 local business owners on the problems that are constantly thrown in their face and the strategies they use to make it all work. The job of being the boss has never been tougher, but if you get it right, it might just be the best job in the world. Today on the show, you'll hear from 4 very different and unique business owners in our community. A cafe owner, a mobile nursing company owner, an axe-throwing and escape room owner, and a bakery owner. While very different, they all share the common traits needed to succeed in small business: being a problem solver, risk taker, and possessor of boundless energy. It's more difficult than ever to be in small business, and these owners talk about how to make it all work. First, we talk with the owners of Main Street Sweets and Oregon Axe Throwing. Jenny Stemmerman, the owner of Oregon Axe Throwing and Escape the Room Oregon, and Carrie Bain, the owner of Main Street Sweets. Welcome to the program.
Thanks.
Hi, thanks.
Yeah. Being a business owner is really, really hard, probably in the best of circumstances. Why don't, let's start with Jenny. How has it been these last few years, taking all that's happened into consideration? Of course, we'll start with, how did you make it through COVID?
Oh gosh, that is a big question. It's funny because you think about it, COVID, that was 2020 and we're now in 2024, and it does not feel yet that it's been 4 years away. It was certainly an adjustment. Every day was an adjustment of that period of time. But it's amazing the lasting effects. You'd think It was just, like I said, 4 years ago, but we're still dealing with ramifications of that, and it still feels so fresh.
Yeah. Carrie, were there things that you had to do during COVID that you're still doing now? I guess, lessons learned, things that actually worked well during the worst parts of COVID that still kind of work?
Yeah, my husband and I bought Flashback Grill the October before COVID hit. Mm-hmm. And so we had a little taste of what it was before COVID hit. Okay. And then being able to swivel, I think, is something, just being flexible with the different rule changes that had happened was something that we've carried on, because it seems like during COVID, every other day there was a new rule or regulation. And then also dealing with just frustrated people, just constantly frustrated and aggressive. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here, but I really want to eat out. Just being able to train our employees and on how to deal with people that are just unpleasant when they first come in. So
Sure.
Yeah.
Jenny, did operating during COVID with all the restrictions, with all the headache, did it teach you something about yourself maybe that you didn't know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think as a business owner, you're naturally more of a flexible person.
Okay.
You tend to be more agile and kind of think on your feet. But during COVID, you really had to do that a lot. And I think that it really showed us how resilient we could be. I mean, there were certainly some wall kicking moments where you're like, why are we having to do this? But you really kind of got to see that perseverance side of it, of being able to see an obstacle in front of you and think creatively. We still have to operate as a business. So what can we do differently or to make something work? And that's really carried through since COVID. I mean, like I said, it's been 4 years. But even with the recent ice storms that we've had, we had to think okay, well, we don't have internet, but we want to open. So what can we do? And you had to be creative.
Sure. Specific to where your businesses are located, Springfield, our community, the Eugene Springfield area. Obviously, what perhaps other cities our size don't necessarily deal with to the degree that we do is the issue of that we have a lot of people who are unhoused. We have a lot of, people who don't have a place to go. And so oftentimes they're hanging out in front of storefronts and whatnot. Maybe talk a little bit about that challenge. Jenny, I'll throw it to you. Kind of that challenge that's has gotten worse over the intervening couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has. And I think it's one of those things where your humanity is there, but then you also have another lens of providing a safe environment for your customers and your employees. I mean, we're an entertainment business, so my employees are closing late at night. And I worry about them walking to their cars or being there just because they're outside of the homelessness. There's also an increase in theft and other crimes in the area. And so it's concerning, to be able to have a safe place for our employees and our customers. I do think, though, that Springfield has done a really good job, especially we're both Carrie and I are downtown businesses. And I think that they've done a really good job of keeping people moving along and providing us resources on things that we can do, to still operate, but still keep our humanity too.
Sure. What about you, Carrie?
Yeah, I know that at Main Street Suites, we've had a few run-ins, but not bad. We're literally just down the road from the police department and just down the road from City Hall as well. And we've had a lot of really good support from them. We've had volunteers stop by with little pamphlets on resources that we can give to someone who comes in who's unhoused or maybe mentally needing help, just with a list of numbers that we can forward to them, or we can have my employees call for help.
Let me reintroduce you guys to the audience. We're talking with Jenny Stemmerman. She is the owner of Oregon Axe Throwing and the Escape the Room at Oregon, and we're talking to Carrie Boehm. She's the owner of Main Street Suites. A lot has been made nationally, at the state, and locally about it's hard to find employees, and that still exists. What's been your experience, Jenny? I'll toss it to you in terms of being able to find the staff you need.
Yeah, it's funny. Carrie and I were just talking about this before the show. It is difficult because being a small business, we struggle to try to compete with some of the bigger employers out there. I mean, there's some larger chains that are offering people a lot of money per hour, a lot of benefits, reimbursement for school, things that we just don't have. I mean, if I could print money in the back room, that'd be great, but that's not the case for us. And so it is very, very difficult. And we have to, again, kind of go back to being flexible and agile and creative and really thinking about what other things can we offer that would be attractive to people, like a fun work environment and feeling appreciated and things that big companies can't do. But, the rise of minimum wage, the rise of all of the other things that are on payroll that people don't always think about that are a burden for small businesses, like the paid leave and the Oregon Saves, and they're great for employees. But as a small business, when we're doing everything, it's just more layers of things that we have to try to figure out and be able to offer.
Yeah.
And I know, speaking from Main Street Suites' point of view, I definitely agree. And I don't think that those things are bad. I think that they're good resources for people. Sure. It would be great if, as owners, we could use it too, being able to have paid leave. Sure. But that, we're not allowed to use those, even though we pay into it as well. And
speaking of competition, and the segue I'm making here is the fact that I've heard from many business people who say, working in Oregon, having a business in Oregon, having a business in Lane County, having a business in Eugene or Springfield, there are a lot of great positive things, obviously. But the challenge remains in that it's an area as a state and even in a community where there are lots of regulations. Sometimes I've heard business people say, I don't think they make sense. And certainly we saw the sort of the fits and starts of the regulatory environment during COVID, what you can't do, what you can do, and it changes. I just kind of wanted to ask you, is it a struggle to have to, be in compliance with all the things that you do, both from your local municipality, the city, but then there's also county and state issues. I mean, talk about just sort of that, the regulations and how they sometimes perhaps get in the way of doing business.
This is Jenny. For me, it is difficult sometimes to stay on top of them, especially because I feel like they're always changing. There's always new ones coming up. And thank goodness for the Chamber of Commerce and places like that help us understand, because sometimes we don't even know that there's something new coming down the pipe until, they tell us.
Yeah. And
then we have to think, oh gosh, there's a new tax law, or there's a new something that we have to figure out how that affects us, if it affects us. And sometimes, God love it, the websites that we have and the government agencies that are doing these regulations are hard to navigate sometimes. So it's difficult to try to figure it out. It's almost like an extra part-time job, taking it on to know what to do.
Sure. Yeah, I think my last question for each of you is sort of this. Jenny, you and I were talking before we went on the air. I've never been a small business owner, but I wanted to ask you both, despite all the challenges that we enumerated right now, what's the thing that you'd want a listener to know about why you still love being a small business owner?
Well, probably because I'm a little bit crazy, but
Noted.
It is a very rewarding thing to be able to build something with your own two hands and watch it flourish. And like we talked about how difficult it is to find employees, but when you do have those great employees, like they make everything worthwhile, your customers, and just to know that you're making a difference for people. I mean, we do fun things and providing fun opportunities for people to make memories like that's worth it. And yeah, there are a lot of headaches that come with being a small business owner, but I like working and I like having that flexibility of being able to do something like that.
Yeah. Carrie, what about you? Close us out here.
Yeah. For my husband and I, just being able to have something that we can build on for our kids and being able to have something that we can be flexible on, because we want to make sure that we're there for any game that they might have or anything in the future that we need to be there for. And then being able to look at ourselves in the mirror and feel some pride that we're able to contribute to the community. We're able to donate to things that when we can donate, to help build things up. When there's school auctions and you can donate a cake to help raise funds for something, just having that ability to kind of help out where you can and just provide a nice place for people to go and just see how much a cake can change a birthday or a wedding or an event. Because at the end it's just butter and it's eggs and it's flour, but it makes a difference to somebody. So being able to provide that has been really rewarding.
Right. Well, we've been talking with Jenny Stemmerman. She is the owner of Oregon Axe Throwing and Escape the Room Oregon, and also Carrie Boehm. She's the owner of Main Street Sweets. Thank you both so much for coming in and talking with us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And we're going to continue our conversation with small business owners about the challenges of being a small business owner. And right now we're talking with Meg Holliday. She's the owner of Busy Bee Cafe, and Tammy English Drew, who is the CEO and managing owner of Ames Mobile Nursing. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Meg, let's start with you. What is perhaps the biggest challenge as a business owner that you face on a day-to-day basis?
I think the biggest challenge is the fluctuation between your community versus what is happening just within your small community, your state community, your nationwide community, whether it's prices on food, what your customers are going through financially, what the weather is like. I mean, it's really a day-to-day change. Like, one day you're crazy busy and the next day you're dead, and it could be anything from an ice storm to the cost of meat, and that they gotta decide what they want to eat.
Yeah. Tammy, I know you don't necessarily have a brick and mortar storefront, but what are some of those challenges that you have to overcome in doing what you do?
Sure. Well, not only do we hire registered nurses, which are hard to come by these days, but cost of wages and cost of supplies are a real challenge for us since COVID. Prices continue to rise.
Yeah. Well, and certainly we've heard, there's almost like a global shortage on nurses, and I imagine it bubbles down to everything you have to deal with.
Sure. Nurses, I think, got burnt out in hospitals, so that was a little bit of a benefit to us as a mobile nursing company because they wanted to get out of the hospital.
Sure.
But it's still a difficult challenge to find qualified nurses.
I bet. Boy. Restaurant, handling food, nurses, handling people who are in need of treatment. There's a lot of regulation and requirements that are aimed right at your industry. Talk about being a small business owner and having to navigate those kind of challenges, especially it seems like, in talking to other business people, it seems like almost every day, there might be something, a new requirement that you have to go through. How do you manage it all?
Email.
Okay.
A lot of emails. A lot of being told, oh, this just changed yesterday, and figuring it out from there. I know at Busy Bee, we're literally the week we're supposed to open at this huge 6-month remodel project. I find out to keep our kitchen up to code, my 11 piece of stainless steel now has to be a 14-foot piece of stainless steel, and I have about 48 hours to procure that if we want to open.
Wow.
It's just, it's ongoing from all aspects, whether it's food, the fire department, you're dealing with people, HR issues.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. What about you,
and
Tammy?
for us, not only were we dealing with the regulatory issues from the government, but from each individual community that we entered to see our patients, because they had their own regulations also.
Yeah.
So being able to fluctuate and move really quickly on a process was important.
Yeah. Working in our community, Eugene, Springfield, a lot of great benefits to working in our community, but we have challenges. And I'm thinking specifically around issues like the unhoused, issues like graffiti being on the rise, just the overall kind of aesthetic of working in a downtown environment. Maybe talk a little bit about how those challenges, come to your front door, or your virtual front door, if you will, for Tammy, and how you have to kind of overcome those.
Well, I guess I'll go first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Where the homelessness issue comes in for us is we have homeless patients that are sick. They go into a hospital. There's not beds for them. They need to get them moved someplace permanent, but the care can't follow them.
Yeah.
And so really trying to figure out with our community leaders how to bring health care to the homeless population.
Okay. What about you, Jenny?
We have so many different facets of that for us. We have the people that come in that we, are asking for food. We have people that we are cleaning up after outside of a business. And I really struggle with the unhoused issue, because I feel like people should have a home, and I feel like people should have clean water and medical care, and that it shouldn't be so difficult to acquire these things. But as a business owner, when I have to go and bleach urine off of a bench that my kids like to sit on outside of my restaurant, or I'm dealing with my employees being scared because they're, a person that is maybe mentally unwell is threatening them outside the door, and I have to really walk this line of having compassion and wanting to help, but also needing to run a business so that my regular paying customers can come in and enjoy themselves and feel safe.
I'm going to reintroduce you to our audience. We're talking with Meg Holliday. She's the owner of Busy Bee Cafe. And we're talking with Tammy Inglis Drew. She is the CEO and managing owner of Ames Mobile Nursing. Another challenge that I know businesses across the country, across the globe have had to deal with is, being able to source items. Supply chain issues has been a big deal. Maybe talk a little bit about how it's impacted your businesses. You go ahead and start, Tammy.
Yeah, well, medical supplies are typically expensive anyway.
Sure.
But with the COVID supply issues, we've had to source items from places we normally don't source items from, even Amazon. And even Amazon medical supplies can be back ordered. So it did put quite a strain on us having to turn away clients because we didn't have the right supplies.
Yeah.
As far as food goes, we have some wonderful resources here in, Springfield and Eugene. And we have kind of switched to more of our local resources as opposed to going with some of the larger box stores. So we still use deliveries. We still use the larger ones. But everybody gets supply chain issues from the top down, the big ones, the small ones.
Yeah.
And kind of trying to find a backup source always has been the only way to keep anything in the store. Constantly running out of things, is just part of the name of the game, I guess. And you hope that you sell out, and that's why you're out of it, and not that you didn't get it in the first place. But just always that second, third, sometimes fourth resource to find that same loaf of bread that you want.
Do you feel good about the local business community, kind of that sense of collectivism that we're in it together and they kind of bonded together? Have you seen that in your daily operations? I
would definitely say I see that at Busy Bee. I feel like Busy Bee has this amazing community surrounding it. We have such a multi-generational customer base, as well as people that have come in to support the Bee. They've been coming there since it was a soda shop, back in the 60s, and all the way to now where they're with their, third, fourth, fifth grandchild, great grandchild. And so it's just that community, but also the businesses that they're tied to. So coming in and offering, one of my customers who is a retired gentleman replaced our countertop, and he owns a countertop company in Springfield. And he was like, I can do this for you, and came in on when we were closed and got that done. And then his nephew came in and helped him, who owns a business in Springfield also. And so it's this little network that has webbed off of just being in Springfield, meeting people that are tied with the chamber, meeting people that own, other restaurants. It's been a really positive experience. It is stretched a little thin, I think. And I think there could be more. Just because I like that camaraderie of having other people in the same industry as me in my community. And not to say that I necessarily know what that more is, but I think that it could definitely be more prevalent for us.
What about you, Tammy?
Well, the business community networking saved me. Coming out of COVID, where we weren't allowed to do a lot of networking, I grasped onto it, and I was pleasantly surprised being a member of both Springfield and Eugene Chamber of Commerce, especially their greeters, other networking groups, and social groups, community groups like Rotary and that sort of thing. It seems like after COVID, people really were hungry to get back together and be a community and troubleshoot with each other. And like you said, you rub my back, I'll rub yours. And so there's a lot more of that now, which I find very refreshing. The business community has risen to the occasion.
Great. Well, I really appreciate you both coming in and chatting with us. We've been talking with Meg Holliday. She's the owner of the Busy Bee Cafe, and Tammy Inglis-Drew. She is the CEO and managing owner for Ames Mobile Nursing. Really appreciate you guys coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's our show for today. There's a lot of, at least perceived, security in working within a large organization. In a chain of command structure, often someone else has to make the tougher decisions and deal with outside issues. But when you're the boss, you have to deal with it all, and as you heard from our guests, it's a real balancing act and creates a monumental amount of stress. But if you're built for it, it can be the perfect environment in which to thrive. I want to thank my guests for coming on the show. Meg Holliday from Busy Bee Cafe, Tammy Inglis-Drew from Ames Mobile Nursing, Jenny Stemmerman from Oregon Axe Throwing, and Catherine Boehm from Main Street Suites. This show, along with all episodes of Oregon on the Record, is available at klcc.org. I'm Michael Dunn, and this has been Oregon on the Record from KLCC. Thanks for listening.